Hello, hello, and good morning. I'm Strider, your host here at Author in the Headlights. And today we have Dana Weigel.
Thank you very much.
Now, we have you on here specifically because you're a new author. Of course, Author in the Headlights is for readers and writers. And for new writers or wannabe writers, I'd like to go back into what that was like, all the things it took, what you learned and what you learned you didn't want to do, all those kind of things. So now I know you have a book that is coming out shortly. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, it's an adventure thriller novel set in 1950, kind of a Indiana Jones, James Bond sort of book with a female lead. And she's going after a treasure that takes her all across the globe, and just kind of a fun escapism kind of book.
All right. Now that's called Byzantine Cross, correct?
Yes, it's the Byzantine
Make
Cross.
sure I get through. All right. And it sounds fun. Actually, I have checked on it and looked it up and saw
Oh,
what you wrote on it. And by the way, you've got a great webpage. I like that.
oh,
It's
thank
very nice. But you've got another one after this comes out. You're already starting another book, Argentinian Affair.
Uh-huh. Yes. It'll be the same character, and she'll be going down, and it's pretty much follows closely behind the first one, but it's not really connected too much to the first one. And she's on another treasure hunt, and gonna get the job done.
Well, once you find something that works, do it again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's for our protagonist as well as ourselves. So, so what brought you into writing as an author? You're almost an author because it's almost out there, but you're certainly a writer. So what brought you into this field?
Well, it kind of well, I've always been a big reader. I was the kid that would come late to school because I was up all night reading. And so I always loved reading. I think I absorbed a lot through that. But then as I got older, I went through, I got a bachelor's of fine arts degree, and that kind of led me into marketing. On a trip, I rediscovered writing. And just for fun, we were on a bus a lot. It was a bus tour, and kind of messing around with an outline of an Indiana Jones movie because I like those. And my husband was like, "You should try and write that." So I did. So I kind of came in the back way, because then the writing led to professional writing gigs. And I wrote for e-commerce platforms and software companies, real estate agents, nonprofits, a bunch of different kinds of things. And then it got to a point where I was doing all my writing for businesses and not finishing the book that I really wanted to write. So I backed off from that, helped my husband for a while with his business, and finished the novel. And I've been working with some great editors that helped me kind of navigate what to do, and went to conferences that were so amazingly helpful. And then here I am. I got picked up by a publishing company at a conference, and we're rolling
Wow.
ahead.
Wow. That is success in a big way that you just started off. And I'll tell you what, life gets in the way of writing, let me tell you, including Author in the Headlights. It does. It keeps me off my keyboard while I'm on my keyboard. Well, that's really a great thing. And the fact that you found someone to publish and that you worked your way into that, that's great. And when does it come out?
It'll be out this fall, hopefully. For getting through the last bit of edits, and then it'll go into their formatting and proofing. And I got to get my marketing going, and hopefully I'll be ready by the fall.
It takes time. It just takes time. This is a slow business compared to most. It just takes time
Yeah, and persistence for sure.
and persistence. So you have this neat story and the 50. So what inspires you to pick up that particular genre and placement?
I love authors that kind of work in the same zone. Steve Barry is a favorite of mine. Dan Brown, of course, very well known
Mhm.
in that. But all the thriller writers like Dan Silva, I'm reading one of his right now. Um, I studied art in school, so the aspect of bringing art into my writing was just really was a big thrill. And then I love the stories of the women in World War II that were the spies and the nurses, and that really were all behind the scenes, and now their stories are starting to come to light. And I find them really inspirational, that they just were so committed and weren't told that they couldn't do it. They just went ahead and did it. um,
Mhm.
and then I traveled quite a bit. And so I wanted to kind of relive those moments through writing, and that's been a lot of fun too.
All right. So you found something you enjoyed and you write about. We do. We write about things we know and the things we love, or the
Hmm.
things we hate, I suppose, but the things that inspire us to write. Do you have a particular method that you use to write? Scratch pads, stick ups. What do you do? How do you go about it?
Well, I did start off with a very primitive outline for this first story, and then I kind of went seat of my pants through most of it. The research was really fun for me because it felt like I could find like one little jewel that connected three different things in the book, and that really was like, oh my gosh, it must, it needs to be in here because it just works so well. I also have like certain spots that I like to go right and kind of get in that zone when
Mhm.
I know there's a coffee shop that sees me for a long period of time occasionally.
I do spend my time in the coffee shop. I don't know why it's set aside. It's kind of inspirational.
Yeah, you get people coming and going, just doing their
Mhm.
business, and it's just a nice energy.
It's true. It's true. I use it. So you said
On
the
the second
writer's
book,
corner.
yes, definitely. On the second book, I'm really digging into the outline before I get started because the first one took me so long as I was learning the process and getting to understand just kind of in my head what I needed to do. So this one, I feel like I really want to put everything I can into the outline and then just drill down on it and try and work it out with a reasonable time period, which
Oh,
did not
do I
happen for this
know?
one.
Yeah. The seat of the pants and get in and write, and then you got to go back and edit so many times. You should have done it smoother the first time through. So I understand that totally.
Yeah,
And how the book writes itself. You get in there and it creates itself. The characters create themselves and then what they do. It's
yeah,
amazing to someone who's not a writer to just read. And of course, every writer has to be a reader so they
yeah.
understand the feel of what they're looking for and what should come out and the timing and the beat, all those things.
Yeah. And then when you're in the zone, doesn't it just feels like it just kind of flows through you and you're in the heads of those characters so deep that you can switch back and forth between the way they speak and the way they act, and then it just all flows out so nicely when you're really in it, in the zone.
It's amazing. Actually, I've used the term channeling before. It's
Oh,
like, it's not me anymore. I'm not writing it. I'm just quickly typing down what this person is telling me to write. And
yeah.
it's very strange.
Yeah, this first book took me a long time to write because of the other writing things that came into my life,
Mhm.
and I kind of felt like I need to write it for the character so that her story could get out,
So it
even though
gets
it's just,
out.
yeah, and even though it's just a figment of my imagination, I got so into like she's this other world is really happening. So
It is. It's very unique and interesting. If you haven't written, people out there, if you have not written yet, you should try it. And it takes some getting into. It's not like this, the first page it happens, but once it starts putting on itself on the paper, then it just starts building itself and start growing.
yeah, it is really, you can't look at your first things and think that's how I write because your writing develops so much over time.
It
And
develops as you write. Yes,
right. And you should start out, I think, just freely writing because then that kind of directs you in the ways that you need to go, you
true,
know? So,
true. Now, speaking of that, have you say you are a writer already, or you're used to doing other things? Do you have a background in writing?
no, it all really came about just kind of organically. I mean, I wrote when I was little, I would write like little notes and stuff to myself as I like to
Sure.
kind of express myself through problems I was going through or joy that I was experiencing, but I was never really dedicated until this first book.
Well, that's good for any wannabe authors. There you go. That's another one of those. I personally had no training in writing whatsoever. I mean, sure, I passed high school, sort of. I went to college, yes, and I did okay, but I did not take English lit as my background, or that it just wasn't.
Hmm.
Um, but I have learned to write because I chose to write, and I wanted, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it right.
Hmm.
So we learn. And you said conferences. Yes. In fact, I think I'm probably going to meet you in a couple of weeks. We're going to the Chanticleer conference.
Yes, yes, I'll
And
be there.
yep, you'll be there. And I will be there for sure. Author in the Headlights will be there also. That's cool.
Yeah,
Now,
excited.
Do you use any particular tools of the trade? What do you use to write with?
Well, I work on a small laptop that I just that's like my book laptop.
Mhm.
And I have notes, paper notes that I write down. I definitely do a lot of research through all avenues, different different places to find. I've looked at, in the library I've looked as well as online and bought plenty of books to help me. As far as like the technicalities of writing, I use Grammarly. I'm always open to trying new things. And then I've found people to help me, like editors on Reezy.
Yes.
Found that to be a good resource for me. Um, so those are probably the main
Okay,
things I
good.
use.
And of course, on Durham and Publishing, there's an author's resource page that lists things like editors and book cover art and all those types of things that a writer will need to know sooner or later, will have to dig into. So those are there on, durhamandpublishing.com author's resource page. And your books, as soon as they come out, by the way, will be available on Durham and Publishing's bookstore page. So we'll get you
Great.
in there. People can dig you up that way, if not just through linking through you. And that's good. So those tools of the trade are really interesting. So you don't use a Scrivener or Atticus or one of the others. You just use the Grammarly. And
Yeah, and I'm always, like I said, I'm always open to finding new things because I'm still learning these tools and I know that there's so many available.
there are,
Yeah, I also, if I have a thought, I'll keep it on my phone and send it over to me, either email, text, whatever. I'll just get it to me somehow if I have a thought or two.
yes, I have little notepads that are thoughts or
Yeah.
book potentials or, oh, here's a cool thing. I can scribble down before I forget it.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep. They're
and
all they're all worthwhile, aren't they?
so what is the most effective or most important thing that you've learned as being a writer or in writing? What has made its most impact on you? Anything like that?
Well, I think for me, when it comes to criticism, I'm very open to criticism. I feel like the positive things said are as important as the negative things that are said because it helps you, like it gives you a focus to drive to if you know what is working. Negative is important too because you need to know what's not working, but I think a lot of times people can focus more on that and then it kind of just drags the morale down. So the positive, I like to hear that first to get me in the right frame of mind, and then the negative is equally important. I would say that's my biggest.
Yeah, we need the positive to keep up our spirit and our energy in order to put the effort, because it takes tremendous amount of energy and time to write a book.
Mhm.
Um, but I also find that, personally at least, we learn more from the negative, because that's a statement that maybe hits us harder. And we said, such as, I got a review that said, this is a great book, but boy, it needs editing. I go,
Mhm.
it's been edited. What do you mean I need editing? So I went back through and I found that the edit, I'd paid for an edit. Of course, to get it through, they had done a certain thing for the ebook version that did not translate well into the print version.
Oh,
And it threw extra pages in, and it was just very unique. So I had to go back through and correct it, find the problem. There's a
wow.
quick, luckily it wasn't, well, it was me because I should have checked it out, right? As an author. So now I check better. And I did get that re-edited, corrected, and republished, because thank goodness you could do that fairly easily nowadays. Um,
Yeah.
and update at least those small edits without any problem at all. But those kind of things. So we do need to hear some things that aren't necessarily great and improve our writing, because we want to do the very best we possibly can, because
Yeah.
we want people to read it. I mean, you write it so people will read it. Yes, for ourselves too, but we really do. We want someone to read our work. And if it
Mhm.
isn't top notch, there's less chance of having it out there and read, because the great reviews show.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I mean, the valid negative criticism that you can get, they're each like free lessons.
They
I mean,
are,
yeah.
absolutely. And yes, I go to conferences And yes, I'm with other groups and organizations to pick up little bits and pieces of information. Yes, I've done beta readers and those kind of things, but still it comes down to what we learn personally and putting out our very best effort.
Mhm, mhm, exactly.
Thank you for spending your time with us. And when your work comes out and it gets published, don't forget to let us know, and we'll put that in our webpage, our germanpublishing.com.
All right.
And thanks for spending your time with us today, Dana.
Well, thank you very much. This has been a lot of fun.
It has indeed. Until next time, I'm Strider, the host here at Author in the Headlights, and we'll see you again soon. Sponsored by DurhamandPublishing.com.